Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn. This is episode 17 on the Haunted Hollows series, and I am very excited for today's video. Hopefully this will be one of the last few, because this series should be coming to a close soon with the release of Timberborn 1.0, which means we are going to have a huge push today. One of the big things that I want to focus on is our science. We have 3 number crunchers in the colony right now, but we need to bump that up because we need to have a lot of science in order to unlock all the monuments. 2 of the monuments are 3,000 and 12,000 science, and then the final wonder is a whopping 20,000 science. But we can't place down those number crunchers willy-nilly because we are suffering a little bit of a power shortage. Our gravity batteries are still fairly low even though we are 5 days into the wet season, which means that we need to have more power produced. And at this point we are partially relying on beaver power. We have 3 of these power wheels, but they only provide about as much power as 1 engine. So to get things kicked off, I'm going to get some water wheels placed upstream right here. We have several water wheels that are providing power, and I'm hoping that we can fit some more of these large ones underneath. So if we pause everything real quick, looks like they do fit. We're not going to place them on top of the platforms. We're going to remove these, but instead we're going to utilize dirt blocks, and then we can go down in elevation and then see where we want to actually put these water wheels. We can start with 5 right along here. But we need to make sure the beavers can actually reach all this, so we need to place some stairs down and get a path set up as well. Fortunately, we have an area that we can get a path underneath some of these platforms, and then just go directly up these existing stairs. And then we can start getting some of these water wheels connected in. And while we have the beavers and bots working on constructing these water wheels, there are actually quite a few trees that we can chop down, and that should help supply us with a little bit of wood. And there's almost nowhere that we could actually place any lumberjack flags, so instead we're going to place a few on this side of the river. And then we're also going to do a little bit of reshaping. I'm going to fill this hole in with dirt blocks, and then we can shift the river so it's going straight along this direction. But of course we need to actually mark these trees to be chopped down, and then make sure we also prioritize these stairs since these were one of the last things that we constructed. We could potentially make a little bit of a shortcut with some of these tubes if we have it offset from our main tube network, and then come right down here, and then we have a tube station in this section. I think it'd only be worth it if we utilize this space in the future. So we can think about getting a tree farm set up over here because we are still running a little bit short on wood and we have some additional green space we could utilize. So we have a few things that the beavers can work on immediately. Although we still have some unemployed beavers, might be worth getting some storage and then even more lumberjack flags. But we can get more of those lumberjack flags placed on the other side of the river once they've chopped down a few of the trees. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised it's taking them this long to construct just a couple sets of staircases. Seems like we have enough wood. We have, well, I guess we only have 14 in storage. 120 or so is in the lumberjack flags. Our newly planted pine forest is fully grown up, and it seems like some of the trees are getting pretty close to producing some pine resin. We have an iron bot who's ready to start collecting. We can switch this forester back to a beaver since we don't really need him to work on these anymore. We can make this forest disappear really quickly if we just place down a few additional lumberjack flags, and then we can also get a forester set up and we'll have him start placing some trees. Although we do have bad water that flows through here during a bad tide, so we'll need to think about that. We might want to actually save a small section of this and not actually replace it with dirt blocks. Instead just have one of our 3x3 grids set up, have some water dumped in there. We could probably even move the forester on top of it in the future. And you can see where the dead trees end and the live trees begin is pretty much where the edge of the bad water effect spread. So it was a good portion of this side of the river. We can start placing down some irrigation barriers along the edge of what the new stream will be. And with so much going on, we can probably add a couple more builders' huts since we do have some more unemployed beavers. And then we do have some additional space. We have been cramming in builders' huts and hauling posts here galore. So we have the forester. We don't know what the next event is going to be. So for now we should stick with just planting some birch trees down. Although let's think about it, we have the event coming. It's probably going to be arriving anywhere between day 12 and 15, which means at most we probably have 6 days before a bad tide would roll through. Even the birch trees would die before that. And if there wasn't a bad tide, then we'd have probably a 6 to 8 day drought and then another 12-ish days for the wet season. And that would give us 20 days. So a pine tree would be able to grow up and produce some additional wood. In the long run, I am going to place oak trees here, but we can start with something that's maybe a little bit more efficient than birch trees, but not as big of an investment as oak trees. We can also bump up the priority for some of the irrigation barriers, and then when the water effects stop, we can increase the priority for this fluid dump. Looks like everything is suffering from a wood shortage at the moment. I think it's safe to say that we want to lower these priorities, and then same for the power shafts. and then make sure we can actually capture the power that we're already producing. And then all the beavers did end up chopping through those trees, so we're still suffering a bit of a wood shortage. We don't really need to have all these beavers sitting around. And yet we still have 10 unemployed beavers. We have a few additional builders huts that we have constructed, so now we can get another hauling post set up. We do have the space right here to place down an additional lumber cruncher, and we want to start focusing on getting science as soon as we can, because we have quite a bit that we need to collect. Overall on resources, we're looking pretty good on metal blocks. Scrap metal is looking good since we did add a second mine in the end of the last episode. Pine resin we're pretty short on, but we actually have more than 0, which is an improvement. We have been producing a bucket of gears. Planks have gone down substantially, but that's also to be expected since we are having a bit of a wood shortage. And then we also added in a bunch of workshops, and each of those wood workshops are using the planks and the pine resin. Speaking of pine resin, it looks like we have some pine resin that is being produced in these forests now, so that should help us get our pine resin stores up a bit. As I mentioned, it's already improved. We don't have 0 anymore. We are in the positives. And now that we have some more space that has opened up, we can place down the dirt blocks to reshape the river, and then also continue with the dynamite. On the bright side, we have these 3 water wheels that are now connected into our power network, so we are producing a surplus of power during the evenings. But we'll have to see what it jumps up to during the daytime. And overall, we're pretty close. We have about 12,000. I guess we also have the beavers who are producing power. These guys add about 1,200, so that bumps us right around 12,000 power. Our demand is also around 12,000. So it seems our gravity batteries are holding pretty steady. It seems like they're charging up just a little bit, but at least we're not going into the negatives during the day. We can continue adding water wheels up along the stream, but we'll need to be careful about adding too many because we are still suffering a bit of a wood shortage, and we don't want to have our planks run out. They were able to construct this additional number cruncher, so we are up to over 7,000 science. We can unlock the Flames of Unity. It's only 3,000. It requires a good amount of planks, so I'm hesitant to actually place it down at the moment, but unlocking it does seem like the right decision. And then we can probably place it somewhere right around here. Getting the Tribute to Ingenuity, that requires power, but we have our power network right next to it, so we could probably fit this one right here, and that once again will have a good reach for the beavers. And then let's check in on the beavers' well-being. It is nighttime, so it's pretty much as high as it's going to be. It seems like most of the basics are being satisfied. Wet fur we could improve a little on. Food is looking pretty good. Mangrove fruits and corn rations could be improved. And then social life is fine. We don't have the bell or clock unlocked. We could also get some more roofs. And we can be pretty efficient by using those decorations on top of these existing lodges. But I don't want to place them down if we're going to continue to go upwards. We still have 6 vacant beds, and we have 4 beavers who are unemployed. But I don't feel like we're actually running short on beavers at all. In fact, we might want to actually not create any more. Worst case scenario, we can continue stacking up on this one, since the large barracks house 16 beavers. But we also need to think about that when we increase their well-being, it also increases their lifespan. So I'm going to actually just pause a couple of the breeding pods. We'll leave that. And then I think with the improved well-being, that should overall keep the amount of beavers that we have around the same. And now we can start squeezing in some decorations on top. I see that we have some water that's actually backing up. Is that because of this right here? Okay, that was temporary, I guess. Looks like the water levels are now extremely low. In fact, you can see there's some backflow. I have no idea what's going on. Might be the dams. I know that I've had problems with them in the past. It seems like they basically shuck a lot of water out through them, and then it seems like there's no water going through them. But this is not really going to be a problem because we don't have a whole lot going on over here. But we did get some of the decorations constructed. Their well-being actually is up to 37. I don't know what it was at the peak, but just a couple days ago it was at 34, so it is an improvement. And I'm guessing over the course of the next couple days we should see that go up to hopefully higher than 37, especially as they construct these last few decorations. Oh, we have a bunch of dynamite that I had placed down, but it's just too far from the district center. But we do have a bunch of dynamite up here that we can detonate. And along the back side, I think this is a much safer spot for some oak trees because it should be far enough away from the river that the bad water effects won't spread. We are actually going to need to remove these trees along the stream bank because we need to have the water wheels be able to connect into the power shafts. So that'll be a quick fix. And then we can mark all these trees to be chopped down. And then since we have all these power shafts and water wheels right here, we can add in a few more charging stations, and then that will give all the bots who are working around here a place to charge when they need to. We can do something similar with the storages for water and food. Basically just a little checkpoint for the beavers to get some resources if needed. Unfortunately, we do have a drought approaching, not a bad tide. So all these trees should be safe. And we can also unmark all these to be planted. We can start placing down some oak trees instead. And in the meantime, we can continue to set up some more infrastructure for the water wheels. We're doing fantastic on gears. We have over 1.2 thousand. Metal blocks are great as well. We are actually maxed out now. We can work on getting some additional storage for those metal blocks. And since we're actually going up in gears so quickly, it might be worth pausing a couple of these gear workshops. We're going to need 400 for the tribute to ingenuity and then 1500 for the earth repopulator. But we are going to need planks for the flame of unity and then treated planks for both of these other monuments. And if we run too short on planks and we're not going to have enough to produce the treated planks, we can now finally reroute the stream. We just need to make sure that we can get over here and actually construct those dirt blocks. We can also start working on planting some trees on this side of the river. Once again, we are going to continue to go with oak trees. With only 0.3 days left of the drought, our gravity batteries are completely charged up. But we're going to be in for a surprise during the next drought, since we are going to be suffering a massive power shortage. Thankfully, we do have the bad water discharge, and this is going to provide constant bad water to all the water wheels underneath. But all of these additional water wheels that we've constructed, plus these few here, they're going to be turned off during that drought. The drought is 8 days long, nothing new to us, but we can keep an eye on the gravity batteries during this drought, and we might want to pause a few buildings if we can. We are doing fantastic on metal blocks. I don't think we need all these smelters up and running. I do want to keep pushing ahead on science, so we are not going to be pausing any of these number crunchers. Looks like we're actually running short on both corn rations and algae rations. Looks like we have a lot of algae stored up. Oh, we're short on canola oil. We only have 3. How much canola do we have? We're also short on canola seed. We do have dirt blocks, so we can take advantage of that and then place some islands in here. That'll give us some more irrigation zones. We can start by placing some canola in the free space that we have around here. Oh, but I did want to set up some charging stations, so we're gonna... Oh my gosh, they have immediately planted everything. Let's mark all these to actually be removed. And we should think about getting an engine placed over here and then some charging stations, because we have 2 mines, one in this corner, then we have another one way back over here. But both of those have 10 bots working in them, and if they run short on power, then they have to travel all the way back to our main colony in order to charge up, and we want it to be a little bit more efficient than that. We have the beginnings of our next tree farm, but we don't have any water to irrigate it, so we can get a fluid dump constructed up here. This guy will soon be able to plant some more trees. We need to make sure we don't have any of the bad water effects spreading into this section, so we can completely isolate it from the stream. We're a little over 2 days into the drought, and it looks like our gravity batteries have reduced their power by about 20%, although I guess it depends on which gravity battery you're looking at. Some of them are closer to 30%, so the last few days we're going to be probably a little bit stretched thin on power. And this forester is a job that is worth switching to bots, because we want to get all these trees planted as soon as we can. We can also plant some above here. I think it's worth lowering some of this section with dynamite just to get access to some more green space. And then we're also going to make a slight modification to this. We have some stairs going underneath, and then below here we're going to have some tunnels go, and then we can have a 3x3 section. We actually have a few additional pieces of tunnel that we don't need, but that's going to provide some additional irrigation over here. And this should cover a good portion of this section. In fact, I don't think we'll have too much more that we need. Maybe we need to extend it underground in this direction a little bit, because it seems like we're not getting quite enough irrigation over here. On the bright side, we are going up in wood. We have about 600 now. We are also increasing our plank stores. We have 350 stored, almost 600 in total. And gears are still in a great spot. It looks like metal blocks are doing fantastic. In fact, we are once again almost maxed out. And then we have 11,000 science. Let's get yet another number cruncher unlocked, and then start working on some of these monuments. Getting the Flame of Unity constructed will be very easy since we have a good amount of planks now, and then soon we can unlock this building. Looks like we do have about 200 treated planks. It's not as many as I would like, but we are going in the right direction. We might want to get a second tapper shack over here to help this guy out. So if we just chop down these 4 trees, then we can duplicate this, and then we can start collecting some more of the pine resin. And the beavers and bots are making quick work of those trees. It looks like we also have some pine trees that are growing up over here, so we can start replacing them with oak trees. And we are out of explosives. Do we not have an explosives factory up and running? Let's check out what jobs we have. We only have 1 explosives factory, and it's only a beaver working there. We can switch that to be bots, and we have a good amount of bad water, so we can get a second one of those placed down. And our well-being score is also going up. It's all the way up to 41 now, and I think it's going to continue going up through the night. And with just under 3 days left of the drought, it seems like we're actually doing pretty good on power. Part of that might be the fact that we are not experiencing a wood shortage, because that wood shortage was probably impacting our steam engines because they require both logs and water. And it seemed like that they might have stalled in placing down all of these. And I'm not too surprised, since placing the dirt blocks when there's overhangs involved can get a little dicey. In the meantime, we can place down some more canola seed. If we remove a few of these, and then instead we rotate them so they're facing the other direction, then they should be able to construct those. Hopefully they can reach some of these ones as well. Although we could just do the same thing and rotate these ones. So I'm kind of just throwing this together. I'm really just trying to create enough green space that we can continue to plant down some canola seed, because this is going to be essential in getting the canola oil produced, obviously. But that canola oil feeds into several things, one of which that I haven't tapped into is the grease factory, and that requires extract and canola oil, which I'm also seeing that we're running a little bit short on extract. Let's make sure that we have, okay, so we have beavers working in here. This is also a high chance of injury job, so if we switch this to bots, that should help out. It only requires bad water and logs, both of which we're doing great on, and then we can switch this second centrifuge to bots as well. We want to make sure that they're both prioritized by haulers, and that shouldn't be a problem since we have so many hauling posts around the colony now. We can fit a couple of small storages that are going to be impacting the explosives factory. This one can be set to bad water, and then we'll make sure it's set to obtain and prioritized by haulers. And then we can have explosives stored in here. But this will be set to supply and also prioritized by haulers. And then we can get one final control tower constructed on top of that warehouse. And at this point, it seems like we are covering pretty much every square inch that we need to. So that will help the bots work a little bit faster over here, which also increases our demand for the resources. Thankfully, we're in a good spot for pretty much every resource. Pine resin we're a little bit short on. We only have 78, but it has improved since the beginning of this episode. Plus we have 2 tapper shacks, and it looks like we have a good amount of pine resin that we can be collecting, so I'm feeling more optimistic about it now. We were short on explosives, so that was impacting our progress on the tunnels. It seems like we're making our way down here now, and you can see the irrigation effects are already starting to spread. If we wanted, we could also place some trees over here, but I'm feeling pretty confident in our wood supplies since we're up to 1.2 thousand logs, and our planks are looking good, gears are looking good. We could probably even add in a few more water wheels. We are almost done placing the explosives on this upper section. This guy is going to be able to reach most of this, but we do have a spot we can place a second forester and then continue to plant down some oak trees. And just like that, the drought has ended. It is cycle 19. If we check on our gravity batteries, it looks like they are actually not quite depleted. We had a good amount of extra power. Part of that might be the beavers that they're helping out. Ideally, I don't want to have them working in these power production jobs. And then we are almost at 12,000 science. Once we reach that, then we can place down our third and final monument. And then the last thing will be to get the earth repopulator up and running. We have enough metal blocks. We have enough gears, but treated planks we are massively short on. We have all these wood workshops up and running. And then we do have the option of pausing one of our mines. If we go to our newest mine, this one is 71 tiles away from the district center, and then the other one is only 58. So we can leave this one unpaused and then pause this one because we're using treated planks and extract, and we're not short on scrap metal at all. In fact, we are pretty much maxed out. We can also replace a few of these smelters with more wood workshops, and now we also have 12,000 science, so we can unlock the third and final monument. And this is a big boy. We're going to place down, but it's going to take a while to construct it, and then this is going to give us a massive well-being boost. But then the last thing we'll need to think about is where we want to actually place the earth repopulator, because this is huge and we don't have a whole lot of space for it. It does not require power, but I was thinking somewhere in here. We could get some overhangs and platforms placed on top of these buildings, and we can utilize this open space from one of the tubes and then start going upwards with our tube network. The beavers should be able to construct all of this, I believe, since the overhangs are within 1 tile of the path that we have underneath. And then once we have this, we can get a tube station on top, and then we can have a second set of overhangs going on top of this tube network. And it looks like they will be able to reach at least this double platform. And then once we get the beavers on here, then they should be able to construct this overhang. And we have our third monument constructed. Our well-being's up to 49. And it looks like our power supply has actually increased. We're up to 13,500. And I'm guessing that's thanks to these new water wheels. Oh, but we have not even connected them in. We're going to strand some beavers temporarily. And then we can get a path that goes on top of the power shafts. And also lets the contamination barriers get constructed behind here to prevent any contamination from impacting our trees. And that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode. We made a ton of progress with getting our wood supply in good order. Overall, we're in a good spot. We have just under 700 logs. We're doing great on planks. Gears are almost maxed out. And then we've bounced back with our pine resin. We have almost 100 now. Be sure to check out the next episode because I suspect that'll be our final episode, as long as we can get enough science in order to unlock the Earth Repopulator and then also construct it in time. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. It really does mean a lot to me and it helps the channel out tremendously. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.